The emergence. The stars hung like distant lanterns in the vast emptiness of space as the Hyperion slipped silently into the Orion arm of the galaxy. At 5 kilometers from bow to stern, Earth's premier battleship was a testament to human ingenuity and determination, a floating citadel of metal and energy that gleamed with a faint blue luminescence against the backdrop of distant stars. Captain Ilara Vega stood on the command deck, her dark eyes reflecting the holographic displays that surrounded her position. 20 years of military service had etched fine lines around her eyes, but had done nothing to diminish the intensity of her gaze. Her short-cropped silver hair framed a face that had witnessed Earth's struggle to survive its own self-inflicted wounds, and then its desperate race to reach the stars. "Transition complete, Captain," announced Commander Tenzin, his voice steady despite the tension that permeated the bridge. "All systems nominal. We've arrived at the coordinates as planned." Ilara nodded, her posture rigid as she surveyed the data streaming across the displays. "Status of the cloak." "Fully operational," replied Lieutenant Santos from her station at Tactical. "Though maintaining it at full capacity with our size will drain reserves within 72 hours. Let's hope we won't need it that long," Ilara murmured, more to herself than to her crew. Humanity's first foray beyond their solar system wasn't born of exploration or scientific curiosity. It was born of necessity. Earth, ravaged by climate catastrophe and resource depletion, needed allies, new homes, or at the very least, trading partners. The Hyperion represented humanity's best hope, and perhaps its last. "Captain, we're detecting numerous artificial structures throughout this sector," reported Science Officer Dr. Maya Chen, her fingers dancing across her console. "Most appear to be mining installations, but there's a significant population center on the 4th planet of the nearby system." Ilara processed this information with a slight frown. Intelligence had suggested this region was sparsely populated, a frontier zone where first contact might proceed without major diplomatic incidents. The presence of a population center complicated matters. "Any sign they've detected us?" she asked. Commander Tenzin shook his head. "No change in local communications or ship movements. Our cloak is holding." Ilara walked slowly to the large viewport that dominated the forward section of the bridge. The engineering team had argued against such an unnecessary structural weakness, but Ilara had insisted. Sometimes sensors and screens weren't enough. Sometimes you needed to see with your own eyes. "Disengage cloak," she ordered suddenly, causing several officers to look up in surprise. "If we're going to make first contact, let's not do it hiding in the shadows." As the Hyperion's cloaking field dissipated, the massive ship became visible to anyone looking in their direction. A leviathan of human design now exposed to alien eyes for the first time. The reaction was immediate. Across a dozen worlds and space stations, sensors detected the sudden appearance of an enormous vessel where nothing had been moments before. Alarms blared, emergency protocols activated, and confused messages raced along communication channels. On the mining colony of Veshtar, Foreman Zilxar watched in disbelief as his monitoring equipment registered the massive energy signature. "By the void," he whispered, his 4 eyes widening as the preliminary scans estimated the size of the unidentified vessel. "Alert the conclave. Now." Within hours, the news of the mysterious ship had spread across the local sector. The conclave, a loose confederation of space-faring species that maintained order in this region, convened an emergency session. Elder Threlvix of the Ardani, the current conclave speaker, surveyed the assembled representatives with his compound eyes. The vessel appeared without warning at the edge of the Koshvil mining sector. It is of unknown design, bears no recognized markings, and has made no attempt to communicate. "How large is it?" asked Ambassador Zoll of the Vexari Mercantile Guild, her tendrils twitching with agitation. "Preliminary scans indicate it exceeds 5 of your kilometers in length," Threlvix replied, triggering a wave of murmurs among the delegates. "It appears to be a warship, heavily armed." "A warship?" The voice belonged to Marshal Korvac of the Hegemony Defense Force, his scaled skin flushing a deeper red. The hegemony will not tolerate unknown military vessels in our sphere of influence. We must dispatch a fleet immediately. Elder Threlevix raised a limb for silence. The vessel has not taken hostile action. We must act with caution until we know more. Aboard the Hyperion, Captain Vega watched the increasing activity around them with growing concern. Ships were changing course to investigate their presence, and communication channels were buzzing with alarmed chatter in dozens of unknown languages. "They're scared," observed Dr. Chen, who had been working with the linguistics team to decode the intercepted messages. "Some are calling us an invasion force." Ilara sighed. "That's the last thing we need. Prepare a first contact package, universal mathematical sequences, basic chemical formulae, simple visual greetings, standard protocol." "Captain," interrupted Lieutenant Santos, "a small vessel is approaching from the mining installation. It appears to be unarmed." Ilara straightened. "This could be our chance. Open a channel when they're in range, and power down all weapon systems. Let's show them we mean no harm." The approaching shuttle, barely 1/20th the size of the Hyperion, slowed as it neared the human vessel. Its pilot, a veteran Veshtari trader named Kraz, fought to keep his forehand steady on the controls. He had volunteered for this mission. Someone needed to discover what this behemoth wanted before the Conclave overreacted. "Attention unidentified vessel," Kraz transmitted in standard Conclave trade language. "I am Kraz of Veshtar. Please identify your purpose in this sector." Aboard the Hyperion, the communication officers scrambled to decode the message. It's structured similar to Indo-European languages. Dr. Chen reported. "The universal translator is adapting. We should be able to respond with basic concepts." "Open a channel," ordered Ilara. "Visual and audio." When Kraz's view screen activated, he nearly jumped from his seat. The alien that appeared was unlike any species he had encountered. It had only 2 eyes, no protective exoskeleton, and was draped in some form of artificial skin marked with symbols. "I am Captain Ilara Vega of the Earth vessel Hyperion," she said, the translator converting her words into approximate equivalents in the trade language. "We come in peace, seeking dialogue and exchange." "Earth," Kraz repeated, the unfamiliar word awkward in his mouth. "Your world is unknown to us. Why have you brought a warship to our space?" Ilara chose her words carefully. "Our vessel serves many purposes. We seek new civilizations to establish diplomatic relations. We mean no harm." But even as she spoke, the situation was deteriorating. The Hyperion's sensors detected multiple vessels breaking orbit from the nearby worlds. Military ships, based on their energy signatures and configurations. "Captain," Lieutenant Santos reported urgently, "we have incoming vessels on an intercept course. Their weapons systems are active." Commander Tenzin moved to Ilara's side. "We should raise shields as a precaution, Captain." Ilara hesitated. Activating defensive systems could be interpreted as aggression, but leaving the ship vulnerable would be irresponsible. "Trader Kraz," she addressed the alien still on the view screen, "we detect approaching vessels with active weapons. We have no hostile intent, but we must protect our ship. Please communicate this to your authorities." But Kraz's reply was cut short as a new transmission overrode their channel, a commanding voice speaking in the same trade language. "Unidentified vessel, this is Marshal Korvac of the Hegemony Defense Force. You have entered Conclave space without authorization. Power down your systems and prepare to be boarded, or we will take action." Ilara's jaw tightened. "This is Captain Vega of Earth. We are on a peaceful mission and have taken no hostile action. We will not submit to boarding, but we are willing to meet with representatives to establish diplomatic relations." There was a pause, then Marshal Korvac responded, his tone leaving no room for negotiation. "Your vessel is classified as a threat to Conclave security. You have 1 standard time unit to comply." As the transmission ended, Commander Tenzin turned to Ilara. "Orders, Captain." Around them, the bridge crew waited in tense silence. This was the moment they had trained for but hoped would never come. First contact turning hostile. Ilara straightened her uniform and surveyed her crew. They were the best Earth had to offer, representing humanity's last, best hope for survival among the stars. What happened next would define humanity's place in the galaxy for generations to come. Raise shields, she ordered, but keep weapons systems offline. Open channels on all frequencies and continue broadcasting our first contact package. She turned to Commander Tenzin. And prepare the revelation protocol, just in case. Tenzin's eyes widened slightly. The revelation protocol. Are you certain, Captain? Ilara nodded grimly. Earth sent us to find friends, Commander, but they also prepared us for the alternative. If diplomacy fails, she let the thought hang unfinished in the air. Outside, more ships were appearing. Warships from various conclave members, all converging on the Hyperion like predators scenting blood. The first real test of humanity among the stars was about to begin, and the outcome would determine whether Earth would find salvation among the stars or face a new interstellar threat. As the alien fleet surrounded them, growing by the minute, Ilara stood tall on her bridge. Whatever came next, humanity would face it as they had faced every challenge throughout their turbulent history, with courage, ingenuity, and an indomitable will to survive. The demonstration. Marshal Korvac watched with satisfaction as his fleet surrounded the alien vessel. 20 warships of the hegemony, supplemented by vessels from other conclave members, formed an impenetrable net around the intruder. Their weapons were primed, targeting systems locked on the gleaming blue hull of the massive ship. They call themselves humans, reported his intelligence officer, a slender Ardani whose translucent skin pulsed with nervous energy. The intercepted communications suggest they come from a planet called Earth. No such world exists in our databases. Of course not, Korvac growled, his scales flushing with irritation. They're obviously from beyond the Void Rift. No civilization within known space would dare construct a warship of this size without our knowledge. On his command screen, he could see the alien vessel, the Hyperion, as they called it. It remained motionless, its shields raised but weapons apparently offline. A curious stance for a vessel that, by all appearances, was built for war. Their captain continues to request diplomatic talks, the communications officer added. They insist their intentions are peaceful. Korvac snorted, a sound that conveyed both amusement and disdain. No one crosses unknown space in a battle cruiser for peaceful purposes. Prepare boarding parties. I want that ship under our control within the hour. Aboard the Hyperion. Captain Ilara Vega watched the growing fleet with a mixture of concern and resignation. The diplomatic approach wasn't working, and time was running out. They're deploying smaller craft, reported Lieutenant Santos. Configuration suggests boarding vessels. Ilara nodded, her decision made. Initiate the revelation protocol. Phase 1. Commander Tenzin moved to a secure console and placed his palm against the scanner. Authentication required, announced the ship's eye. Commander Raj Tenzin, Executive Officer, Earth Vessel Hyperion. Authorization Omega-7 Tango. Captain Ilara Vega, Commanding Officer, Earth Vessel Hyperion. Authorization Sierra 5 Echo. The console glowed green as their identities were confirmed. Revelation Protocol Phase 1 initiated, the AI announced. Throughout the massive ship, hidden systems began to activate. Panels shifted, revealing previously concealed apparatus. The soft blue glow that had emanated from the hull intensified, pulsing with new energy. On the bridge, Dr. Chen looked up from her station. Captain, I've been analyzing their communications. There's something odd about how they organize their fleet movements. Explain, Ilara prompted, her eyes still on the approaching boarding vessels. They're coordinating through a central command network, highly efficient, but vulnerable to disruption. If we could access that network, Ilara turned to her communications officer. Establish a direct channel to Marshal Korvac's vessel. Let's try one more diplomatic approach before we show our hand. When Korvac's face appeared on the main screen, his reptilian features were set in an expression of triumph. "Captain Vega, have you reconsidered your position?" "Marshal Korvac," Ilara replied calmly, "I urge you to reconsider yours. The Hyperion is not merely a warship. It represents the combined technological achievement of an entire planet. We have capabilities you haven't yet observed." Korvac's scales shifted color slightly, a sign of uncertainty, though Ilara couldn't know that. "Is that a threat, Captain?" "A fact, Marshal. We came seeking peaceful relations, but we are prepared to defend ourselves if necessary. I propose a diplomatic solution. Withdraw your boarding vessels, and we will power down our shields as a gesture of good faith. Then we can meet as equals." For a moment, Korvac seemed to consider her words. Then his features hardened. "Your ship will be boarded, Captain. Your technology will be analyzed. Your crew will be interrogated. The Conclave will determine what threat your Earth poses to galactic stability." As the transmission ended, Ilara turned to her bridge crew. "They've made their choice. Initiate Phase 2. Deep within the Hyperion, quantum processors that had remained dormant during their journey activated. The ship's AI, operating at merely 5% capacity until now, expanded its awareness through previously locked systems. "What exactly does Phase 2 entail?" Dr. Chen asked, her scientific curiosity momentarily overriding the tension of their situation. Commander Tenzin answered as he monitored the activation sequence. "Earth's greatest advantage isn't our weapons, Doctor. It's our information technology." Outside, the boarding vessels were moments from reaching the Hyperion's hull. Marshal Korvac watched with anticipation as his elite troops prepared to breach the alien vessel. Then, without warning, every system on his flagship stuttered. Screens flickered, went dark, then reactivated with unfamiliar symbols racing across them. "What's happening?" he demanded, rising from his command chair. "Unknown, Marshal," his technology officer replied, frantically working his controls. "Some kind of information warfare. Our systems are being accessed and rewritten." Across the Conclave fleet, the same scenario was playing out. Ship after ship reported systems failures, communication breakdowns, and loss of weapons control. Not complete shutdown. The life support and essential functions remained operational, but every offensive capability was neutralized. On the Hyperion's bridge, Ilara watched the chaos with a mixture of relief and regret. "Status report," she commanded. "Phase 2 complete," reported Commander Tenzin. "We've established control over 87% of their command systems. Their weapons are offline, and we've isolated their fleet communications. Casualties? None, Captain. As designed, the system targeted only their offensive capabilities." Ilara nodded. "Open a channel to all vessels." When she spoke, her voice reached every ship in the Conclave fleet simultaneously. "This is Captain Ilara Vega of Earth. What you have just experienced is a demonstration of one of our technological capabilities. We could have disabled your life support. We could have taken full control of your vessels. We did neither, because our mission is peaceful." In his command center, Marshal Korvac stared at the screens in disbelief. No species in known space possessed the ability to so thoroughly penetrate the hegemony's security protocols. It should have been impossible. "We will now return control of your systems," Ilara continued. "Consider this proof of both our technological capabilities and our restraint. We came seeking dialogue, not conquest. The choice of what happens next remains yours." As promised, the alien influences withdrew from the Conclave ships. Systems returned to normal, though wary technicians immediately began analyzing what had happened and how to prevent it in the future. Elder Threlvix, who had observed the confrontation from his own vessel, opened a direct channel to the human ship. "Captain Vega, this is Elder Threlvix of the Conclave. Your demonstration has been noted. Perhaps it would be wise to discuss matters further." Ilara allowed herself a small smile. "We would welcome that, Elder Threlvix." 3 days later, Ilara stood in the Hyperion's conference room, now modified to accommodate the physiology of their visitors. Elder Threlvix, Marshal Korvac, noticeably subdued, and representatives from 5 other conclave species sat around the table, still processing what they had learned about humanity. Your species developed artificial intelligence to this level without it turning against you? Asked the Vexari ambassador, her tendrils moving in patterns that indicated deep interest. We learned from our mistakes, Ilara explained. Early in our development of AI, we experienced several near catastrophes. The systems aboard the Hyperion represent centuries of careful advancement, with safeguards built into every level. And your world, Earth, it faces resource depletion. Elder Threlvix inquired, his compound eyes reflecting the holographic representation of humanity's home planet. Yes, Ilara acknowledged, the gravity of her mission weighing on her once more. Earth can no longer sustain our population indefinitely. We need new resources, new territories, new allies. Marshal Korvac leaned forward. Yet you built this vessel. An incredible expenditure of the very resources you claim to lack. The Hyperion represents our hope for survival, Ilara replied evenly. We invested what we had left in this mission because the alternative was slow extinction. A silence fell over the room as the aliens contemplated this. It was Elder Threlvix who finally spoke. The conclave has existed for 12,000 years, Captain Vega. In that time, we have encountered many species, incorporated many worlds. None have ever managed to impress us as thoroughly as humanity has in these few days. Ilara inclined her head respectfully. We hope this is the beginning of a productive relationship. Indeed, the Elder continued. The Conclave Council has authorized me to extend an offer of provisional membership to Earth. Such an arrangement would grant your world access to resources from across our territories, in exchange for controlled sharing of your technological innovations. It was more than Ilara had dared hope for, a diplomatic victory beyond her mission parameters. I am honored by the offer, Elder, though formal acceptance must come from Earth's government. Of course, Threlvix acknowledged. And arrangements must be made for proper cultural exchange. Your species is uniquely innovative. The Conclave would benefit from understanding how you developed such capabilities in isolation. As the meeting concluded, and the alien representatives prepared to depart, Marshal Korvac approached Ilara privately. Your demonstration was effective, Captain, he admitted grudgingly. But know this, while the politicians may welcome you with open arms, others will view humanity as a threat. The balance of power in this sector has existed for millennia. Your arrival has disrupted that balance. Ilara met his gaze steadily. Humanity doesn't seek dominance, Marshal. We seek survival. Perhaps, he replied. But in my experience, those goals often become indistinguishable. After the delegates had returned to their ships, Ilara stood at the viewport, watching as the once hostile fleet now formed an honor guard around the Hyperion. Their first contact had been rocky, but they had established a foothold among the stars. Transmission from Earth, Captain, announced Lieutenant Santos. They've received our preliminary report and await your full briefing. Ilara nodded. Tell them mission successful. We've made first contact, and humanity has a future among the stars. As the Hyperion prepared to journey deeper into conclave space, now as guests rather than intruders, Ilara couldn't help but wonder what other challenges awaited them. Humanity had made its grand entrance onto the galactic stage, impressive, perhaps intimidating, but ultimately welcomed. The galaxy would never be the same again, and neither would Earth.